Awesome, thank you. So this is my parents' house, which is in Ararat, where I grew up. So I have a very emotional connection to the place, but importantly, I think to acknowledge the Djabwurung, the people of the nation of which it sits in, Ararat sits in. It's a really beautiful place. It probably has a checkered history, I suppose, with contemporary society. It was the place where The Biggest Loser was filmed, so has the fattest people on earth living there, and it kind of tends to be a place between two national parks, so the Mount Cole National Park, where all the fires have been recently, and then the Grampians National Park, which is where the fires were not that long ago as well. So it's quite a beautiful town, beautiful village town, and Mum and Dad have lived there for more than 50 years. So it's been quite a beautiful place to be and to grow up in. My mum bought this piece of land for my dad when they first moved here in 1970 for $2,000. She didn't tell him she bought it, so it was out of town, no one wanted to buy it, so it's 7 acres on the edge of town. And it backed onto a national park, and Dad built the house we grew up in it, and as a consequence of that, it was never finished. We moved in and there was no floor in the living room, and it was just kind of one of those houses that just kept being built. But they're both 80. So they moved from out of town to into town before they couldn't live in the house on the hill, and so they're moving from 7 acres to 700 square metres, and just in terms of being really close to the city. I found this image one day at the Centre of Moving Image down at Acme, that's what it's called, yeah. I was like, God, that's so beautiful. And then I realised it was the town I grew up in. And so the town itself hasn't changed a lot. It's actually quite a beautiful, eclectic streetscape, and the city doesn't really have an architectural style or character. It's probably architectural character and style is the fact that it's a bit of everything, but it has this beautiful view. This is the view I grew up with. So my parents had this amazing location and this amazing view, and this is Mount Cole, but known as Sleeping Beauty. So a beautiful outlook, and my parents were moving from this into town. I suppose that movement from that having a view and having quietness and having outlook to sitting in suburbia in a town was a big shift. And I think some of the things my parents wanted to take from that were the kind of colouring and textures and simplicity, I suppose, within the landscape that they were missing. This house is a house my brother owned, so this is the house they ended up buying. They bought from my brother. So my brother lived here with his wife and kids for a little while before they moved out. It's only 74 square metres house. It's really tiny. It was actually built by a local builder. The bricks were made by Kraus Bricks when Kraus are just next door to us. So it's right in town. And so Mum and Dad bought the house, and the problem with it faces north. So the street is to the north, and in a country town, that means everyone sees. If you put the living room there, that means everyone sees what's going on. So how do you kind of manage that quietness? This is the plan. It actually has a lane at the back, and the long-term strategy is when Mum and Dad move out that my brother might buy this house back from them, or actually he'll get the house from them. So maybe it gets extended again. But so the house was 72 square metres. We essentially looked at just taking off the front living room, which faces north, to give a better relationship to the northern edge and provide that outlook and that relationship to the north, but by keeping the house that sat in the middle of the site, or the piece that sat in the middle of the site. So the 2 bedrooms stayed the same. Where the bathroom and kitchen became their master bedroom. We put 2 bathrooms on the back and a living room on the front, and a courtyard that faces north to be protected. It's purposefully a little bit disconnected from the backyard in the intent that if my brother does end up buying the house or getting the house from them, that with his 2 kids and dogs and everything, it might connect through to another addition at some point in the future. It was important that the house, Mum and Dad could age in place, so ramps, no steps, big showers, the capacity for them to be in their wheelchair. So I made these models originally. It's a single level house. You can see the hip or the roof of the original building, this new building that would sit in, and these 2 light chimneys, so that we would get light from the east and the west, morning and afternoon light into this courtyard. And I suppose trying to make a ramp be a bit celebratory and civic, as opposed to being perfunctory and like you're growing old. We wanted to make it more than just that. So this is I made this model for Mum and Dad to show them. I kind of went through the plans with them. The section reveals the kind of original house embedded between the two additions either end in the courtyard, and this kind of courtyard wall, which was really about filtering out the nosy neighbours, but still capturing northern light, and the kind of built veranda, which gives us, because it faces due north, we can get 100%. We don't have any sunlight hitting the glass in the middle of summer. Basically, there's no air conditioning in the house. There's some hydronic heating in the floor. They still have gas. That's been difficult to get Dave to shift from gas, but he's finally getting there. So they've just put PVs on the roof of the shed, and they're going to transition across to full electric soon. So that's good. Little sketches around, this was the entry to the house, and thinking about the relationship to the neighbour and getting views. They have an amazing garden, the next door neighbour, so it's like visually borrowing their garden, but not looking at them. And then this idea of the courtyard to the north, where they would get beautiful light, but not. Mum was really worried about having the privacy of where they have lived forever, worried about people looking in. So yeah, just sketches of that. Just 2 minutes, all right, okay, quick, hurry. The house itself, the retention of the original street fence and the driveway, the kind of curved courtyard, the sense of entry in, and you can see the old house embedded into it. The garden by Amanda Oliver, which Mum and Dad planted all of it themselves, which was amazing. This sense of entry and kind of a spot to sit and have a cuppa with the neighbours who don't have to come inside the house. The retention of the column, which was the original column of the house and the front door, so that my niece and nephew kind of climb up and down there and play around with it. And just a bit of joy in the way we used the Krauss bricks again, and working with Clinton just to play around with that. Kind of a sense of joy in the living and dining. It's a very modest scale house, like it's not big at all, but it's just trying to be a little bit joyful in the use of materials. 2 light fittings that we found at a clearance sale locally, furniture that Mum and Dad had, one new piece of furniture which we bought for them, the kind of borrowing the next door neighbour's garden through the windows, and just thinking about how to reflect the kitchen, reflect the garden back into the house. And you can see through this little gap which gives them ventilation to the old house and the window of the original bedroom, just the courtyard space. And this kind of capacity to be able to sit in the sun or sit in the shade. So the kind of wall gives you the shade, and you can pull back into the sun if you want it in winter. In the old house, we just left everything pretty much as it was and painted everything green and put the green carpet down. Like, it was pretty simple. The shower is big enough to get a wheelchair in. It's got a little seat in it. A skylight in to get light into the middle of it, and then a little courtyard off this bathroom so that you can have the window open when you're showering. This is the back, so as I said, it's quite disconnected from the rear, with the intent that this window one day will connect through and become part of it. It was also retention of a whole lot of fruit trees behind us, which sit in there, and that's the house.